Thank you guys for coming out tonight. I'm going to do a presentation on the life and works of Andy Warhol. You may have heard of him a time or two. He's pretty famous. But yeah, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about his life and maybe you'll learn something new. So his early life was, he was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in 1928. His parents are Slovakian immigrants. And his dad was a coal miner, and his mom was an embroiderer, and she also did construction work. It's a very interesting combination of careers, if I do say so myself. When he was a child, he struggled with Sydenham's chorea, which led to a period of confinement where he became obsessed with celebrity photos. His mom actually kind of got him into it. She gave him like scrapbooks with a bunch of celebrities in them and some Shirley Temple photos to color, and that really like inspired his later portraits. So just really inspired him from really like early on. And he began his career as a commercial illustrator in New York for Vogue and Glamour. These are some of his earliest works, and he started developing his blotted line technique, which is like using ink on a non-porous sheet of paper and then stamping it onto something that is porous. So like something like a plasticky piece of paper that you would like try and write on with a marker, and it like kind of beads up, and then you can stick it to like a piece of printer paper or something, so it transfers that design. So you can make a lot of the same thing over and over again. So you can see in that photo right there, that's an example of the blotted line technique. For pop art, he really like pioneered pop art. That was like his thing. He was like, I'm doing it and I'm doing it all out. So he like kind of came up with the idea of joining commercial culture and fine art. And it's characterized usually by like super vibrant, bold colors, screen printed images. So like you'll see a lot of the same thing printed over and over again, like in this grid you'll see here. Like mundane, everyday objects and turning them into something like high class. And it was a very controversial thing at the time. People were like, oh my gosh, why have we got soup in the museums? What are we doing here? But he just really pushed the boundaries of like what fine art is. He also famously really wanted to be like a machine. That was his whole like design, I don't know, like technique. He wanted to make everything look the same. He did a lot of screen printing, like copying different forms of that, just a lot of printing to make things look the same and do them in lots of grids with the bold colors. This is his factory. This is where he did everything. There was two locations. There was one on East 47th Street, and it was active from 1963 to 1967. And it had like tinfoil walls with silver spray paint on them. It was so wild. You can kind of see in that picture there. He's like laying on his couch with these crazy walls. It looks almost like the duct of a furnace, like that shiny stuff. It looks like that. And the factory served as like basically a production line for all of his like silk screens. He had a huge setup for it. And it was also like a big hangout for misfits, musicians, superstars, anyone who wanted to come in there, they were there. And honestly, contrary to what you might think, Andy Warhol was a devout Byzantine Catholic. You wouldn't think that by looking at all of this mess that's got going on here. Very shocking to find out to me, honestly. The original location was designed by Billy Name, and that's who covered the wall in silver foil and spray paint, and it was to reflect the era's like drug-fueled Union Square and West 33rd Street. Union Square West and 33rd Street. It had a more corporate feel, kind of lit, honestly, compared to what we had going on at the first place. It was very corporate and more minimal. I should have given you guys a spoiler alert. I spoiled the whole film of Empire for you guys. Sorry. He was working on avant-garde works such as Empire. It was an 8-hour film shot from the 44th floor of the Time Life building. He slowed down the footage at certain times, and he forced the audience to notice minute changes in the lighting and atmosphere of the sky and everything in the cityscape, which is kind of cool. But this is basically the whole movie. It's 8 hours of that. It doesn't get much better than that. Obviously, he rejected the typical movie telling and storytelling line. He did not have anything to do with that. He wanted things to be very much different than anything else anyone was doing. He had another film, Sleep. And it was a 5-hour silent film of John Giorno sleeping. It was just him sleeping. He looped the footage to make it look like it was a field of light and shadow, so he looked kind of like luminescent, but it was just him sleeping for 5 hours. So I don't recommend either of these films particularly to watch all the way through. Maybe you look at a clip or two, but I think that'll get the gist. Maybe in 10x speed or something, but I think that's even still too long. Crazy. He was almost assassinated. This is wild. News to me. I didn't know this. This maybe is more common knowledge than I thought, but I never knew this. But on June 3rd, in 1968, he survived an assassination attempt at the factory. Valerie Salonis opened fire with a handgun, striking him and critically wounding him, while also grazing an art critic and curator, Mario Amaya. He was briefly pronounced dead and then was revived, so that was good, thankfully. And the reason she went to shoot him was because she thought that he was stealing a script from her, because she gave him a script and then he lost it. Typical man, he lost it, and then I don't know where it went. I lost it. And so she was like, you're trying to steal my script and financially, you're preying on my financial downfall. This is a problem. I'm gonna have to put a stop to this. So the way that she decided to put a stop to it was shooting him. She was later diagnosed with schizophrenia. It was not great. Oop, sorry. So she was then arrested, thankfully, and I quote said, hold on, where is it? She said, "I didn't do it for nothing. Warhol had me tied up, lock, stock, and barrel." She was very gung-ho with the fact that he was stealing her script. Oh, and the script was called Up My Ass, which, okay, that's crazy. I just was flabbergasted by this whole situation because, well, yeah. So he was almost assassinated. Thankfully, he survived, and this lady went to jail. Yay. After his recovery, he moved away from his avant-garde experiments because I think maybe he was like, oh no, the people around here are getting a little too crazy for my liking, so I'm gonna move somewhere a little bit more toward the business world. They're less crazy over there. So he founded an interview magazine in 1969, and he focused on celebrity commissions and portraits of world leaders, rock stars, business leads, anyone who had a lot of money. He was there. He's like, give me your money, give me your fame, please, thanks. And he, as later on when he was working with more of these business people, he realized he was like, wow, this is kind of boring. All these business people, they all want the same things. all these headshots and boring things. I want to go back to the fun things. So he came back to the contemporary art scene, and he was a mentor to a young neo-expressionist. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. His name is Basquiat. He has done some very famous artworks. He has a very scratchy, sketchy style. You can kind of see it in the banana there. It's very loose, and it's almost childlike in a way. It's very messy and fun. They produced over 160 collaborative works, such as Bananas, which we'll see toward the end. And Basquiat brought a rebellious image back to Warhol's works, and Warhol provided Basquiat with his cultural legitimacy and his more refined corporate commercial kind of artwork style. And so they had a nice little fusion. It looks really cool. And yeah, so we're moving on to his famous works. His Death and Disaster series was produced between 62 and 64. There was a couple pieces that were in this 67, but there was only a couple. So I would say they were mostly between 1962 and 1964. The mass media critique used really gruesome images. He would take them from newspapers, car crashes, suicides, things like that. It was really violent images, and he used them to reflect how modern society consumes so much of tragedy and things like that as entertainment, in movies and media and things like that. Orange Disaster depicted the empty execution chamber with super vibrant, bold colors to contrast with the very, very dark subject matter. And he noted that when you see a gruesome picture over and over again, it doesn't really have any effect. By repeating the images in a grid-like silk screen format, he wanted to mimic the way media pushes the saturation of all of the violent things going on in the news and things like that. Some examples of this are Toonfish Disaster in 1963. It was based on a story about two housewives in Detroit. They died of botulism from AMP tuna cans. He put their faces underneath the cans to critique the blind faith that people have in corporations and things like that, and food safety, especially because at that point in time the FDA was less strict, so there was more things that could happen like that. And it shows how you can turn a mundane, regular, run-of-the-mill item into something that could kill you. This one is really famous. This picture is really famous just as a whole, and this artwork is really popular. This is a picture of it actually displayed in a museum. It's often called the most beautiful suicide. The woman in the photo, Evelyn McHale, she jumped from the Empire State Building and then landed on top of a crushed limousine. And there was a photo taken of her, but she looked really peaceful and calm, and she had her legs crossed and her hands to her side. She was just it looked like she was just laying there. And this image went absolutely crazy. It was viral everywhere. And so people were really drawn to this piece. This one was a really, really popular one. I thought it was, honestly, this one's crazy to me. However, whoa, that's wild. How is this so popular? I get it, but also, whoa, crazy. I don't know. Crazy to me. The race riot in 1963, this one is pretty much unlike any of the other ones that he did in this series. It didn't really focus on like an accident or like something tragic in the same sense. It's tragic in a very different sense. It shows Charles Moore's photographs of police dogs attacking civil rights protesters in Alabama. He wanted to make a series of this called Death in America, where he wanted to highlight racial divisions that were like formed in the 1960s American life, especially like in the South, such as like Alabama and things like that. So he made this piece, but he never did Death in America. I don't really know why. The double disaster format this one is really wild as well. This one's also very popular. This one is very, very interesting. This one's called Silver Car Crash. It is a silkscreen image, and there's canvas that is stamped, and then the blank pieces are parts of the canvas that are just entirely blank. So it's all one canvas, and it's representative of like the emptiness of death or the deafening silence, and it makes the viewer like contemplate like the death or the void of death alongside seeing the image of this is a car accident. I don't know if you can really see it. The images are pretty small on this one, but it's a pretty gruesome car accident. It's like head-on collision. It looks to be over and over again in this like S shape almost. And these ones are also very popular because Jack and Kate. Andy Warhol's portraits of her are like the pinnacle of death and disaster because it's his two favorite things. Like it's his two greatest obsessions, which is celebrities and morality. He sourced the images from the media frenzy following the assassination of JFK. Instead of trying to source images of her being like all put together in like a very calm, collected manner, he got her while she's in other states. Like she's smiling in the first one, she's kind of side-eyeing in the second one, and she's very upset in the very bottom. And in 16 Jackies, this one is 9 Jackies. He's really good at naming them. Really easy to tell which one it is. 9 Jackies. That is 9 Jackies. He repeated the same crop press photos to mimic the numbing effect of the constant media coverage. So you're constantly seeing all of the things about JFK's assassination, all of these things, and he wanted to like kind of add to that with showing Jackie's side and showing it kind of through her eyes, through the like candid photos. He used a lot of blacks and whites and blue tones because it's pretty classic trope. Blue, black, white, all kind of sad muted tones, just to keep with the mourning atmosphere. Now we're getting to a really fun one. Marilyn Monroe and Marsha P. Johnson. They were alike in a lot of ways with Andy's work. He did a lot of things the same, but also a lot of things different. You'll see. He began his Marilyn Monroe series right after she died. She was completely consumed by the public until her image was completely consumed by the public, and her identity was like, kind of flattened by her fame. She was just the image of Marilyn Monroe. She wasn't really like her own person. And Marsha P. Johnson was featured in the 1975 Ladies and Gentlemen series. She was a legendary LGBTQ Warhol, for Marilyn Monroe's portrait, used pre-existing photos from the 1953 film Niagara. He distanced the art from Marilyn. Like, he tried to distance it as much as he could by using it from a film instead of something where it's candid like this. Focusing on how she portrayed herself to media. And with Marsha P. Johnson, he took over 500 personal Polaroid photographs in his factory. He had her sit and pose for over 500 photos, which is a lot of Polaroids. I can't imagine how long those took to develop. Can you imagine like sitting there shaking all the things? That would take forever. And it allowed for a more unique, personal, like more personality come through in the subscreen rather than something that Marilyn was putting on for the cameras. They both used really bright, vibrant colors and the misaligned subscreens. And Marilyn was more of a manufactured beauty, while Marsha was a prodigy of self-invention, because she was doing a lot of drag and things like that. She involved a lot of drag communities. So she was less with the like glitz and glamour. It was more of like self-discovery, self-invention, things like that. Andy Warhol critiqued how he critiqued overexposure and how seeing an image repeatedly will desensitize the people seeing it. And for Marsha, it was a series of like visual assertion, like very, very like, these are my pictures. This is me. This is who I am. We're doing it. This is it. And Angie really tried to get her photo out there because she was part of a marginalized community. She's trans, so not great to be trans in the 60s, to be honest. And so he was trying to create some visibility for trans people and things like that. And Marsha P. Johnson later commented on the irony that her portraits were selling for like hundreds of thousands of dollars while she like couldn't pay her rent, which just is crazy and very ironic, very unfortunate. The biggest differences, other than like, actually no, I lied, that's not the biggest difference. There's a big difference in the color palettes of Marilyn and Marsha's series. Marilyn had they were very flat colors. As you can see in this photo, like the only definition is what was silk screened. There's no definition in the actual colors that he used. He just painted like flat lines on there, and they're all in like we're in the right spots, kind of. Like her hair is yellow, her eyeshadow's blue, her lips are red, skin's pink. And the colors are more harmonious, and they look a little bit more, I guess, flowy. They look a little bit, not natural, but a little bit more natural. And then Marsha's and the entire Ladies and Gentlemen series was a lot of like, you can just see the difference in the way that the colors are laid out. They're in different patterns, they're in different locations, they're not staying within the lines. And he would use his like fingers to paint, he would like finger paint on the canvases to create like texture. Marilyn's very flat, they were all like silk screened. And the color schemes were very harsh in these. They used punch for 20 years.
Whoa.
That is dedication, because camel soup is not that good. Like it's
Yes.
fine, but not eat for 20 years straight good. Like, ooh. And so he wanted to just bring more attention to the making ordinary things fine art. Back on my train of we're making low class things fine art, yeah. And this one really represented a shift from his abstract expressionism to his pop art. This one was a really big turning point for him. This was his first like big pop art. These green Coca-Cola bottles are really cool. I just think they look really neat, personally. They're hand painted. They're life-size bottles, so you put it up to a Coca-Cola bottle, same size. They're a little bit messy, which he circled back to Basquiat. And he did the Coca-Cola again to do the low consumer items as the high class art. And he highlights that Coke is the same quality for everyone, like celebrities, ordinary people, we're all drinking the same stuff. Always down to glass bottles at the time, this was the 60s. So, that was cool, yeah. The banana! We all love the banana. It originally peeled. It would peel off and you'd see a little pale banana underneath. And you can kind of see where you peel it. At the very top, you can't see it because this picture is just not large enough. But at the very top, it says peel slowly. And it's a cover for the Velvet Underground and Nico album, which he produced. Fun fact. And it was originally a screen print, and it was a sticker on an album cover, I suppose I should say. I guess the pale banana was the album cover, and the peel was the sticker part, I suppose. This is bananas. This is with Basquiat. He likes bananas a lot, I guess. He's famous about them. Yeah, he likes his potassium, I suppose. It's one of their 160 collaborative paintings. This one I really like because I feel like it really combines their two styles very well, with like the logos and the messy bananas and paint and things. I just thought this one was a good mix of their styles. It features the Velvet Underground style banana and Basquiat's really chaotic style. It merges his commercial detached style with his raw and direct crazy art energy. And this was one of his last pieces, this was his last series, not one of, this was his last series. This is his self-portrait, and it's part of the Fright Wave series. It is a really like eerie, uncomfy silkscreen series, and it was created shortly before his death in 1987. And it was like a final morbid meditation on his morality and his persona of Andy Warhol. And he really tried to mask his true self throughout all of this. He did not want to be perceived. It embodies the contradiction behind he really wanted to be famous, but he also really didn't. He's like, wait, but don't actually. I don't want you to like look at me though, but I want to be famous. Look at all my art, don't look at me. So he did all these like crazy, obviously you can see his goofy, sticking up straight hair. He always had this beautiful, luscious locks of platinum blonde. So he really wanted to like change how he appeared to the public. This was his last major self-portrait exhibition, and it was characterized by his high contrast, intense, like kind of almost panicked portrayals of himself, which signals a think he kind of realized he was dying in these ones. He was a terrible fear of the doctor. He had a very intense phobia of going to the doctor. So he had some health issues, which leading to his death. He passed away in his sleep on February 22nd, 1987, at the age of 57, or 58, excuse me, in Manhattan. He died from recovering from what was supposed to be a routine gallbladder surgery, but because of his strong phobia of hospitals, his gallbladder was gangrenous and literally fell apart during removal. So, yeah, that was not great. Go to the doctor, guys. Don't do that. And he's buried at the St. John the Baptist Byzantine Catholic Cemetery, because as I said, he was a devout Byzantine Catholic. He would go to Mass every Sunday and volunteer at soup kitchens and things like that. And since 2013, his grave has been under 24/7 live streamed surveillance as a part of an art project called Figment, which is pretty interesting. So you can just go pull up his grave anytime you want, see what's going on over there. I'm not exactly sure. I've never looked it up. I guess I should have done that. But there must be something interesting going on, because I can't imagine why else they would live stream for 24 hours a day. But it's very interesting. But yeah, thank you guys for coming out. Hope you learned something.
Thank you.
At the very least, you're